voice. I am your voice.
Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new live stream. Make sure you guys like the stream down below before we get started. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, and if you are subscribed, turn on the bell so you never miss another stream. So that was something, wasn't it? That was a debate that we just witnessed, and I think unlike the debate we saw with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, it seems like the verdict, even among those people over at CNN, this is not even something that, one side's going to say, my guy won, the other guy's going to say, my guy won, like it was during the Trump-Harris debate. And I honestly thought that's what this would be going in. And we don't have the CNN debate poll, and we know how those typically go. But the one thing I will say is it was not close. It was not close. And we understand it wasn't close. J.D. Vance utterly decimated Tim Walz. He utterly decimated him. And in terms of what he was able to do, and you could see it on the tweet on screen because it's just a perfect way to put it. J.D. Vance was able to go out there tonight and give people, even who may not like Trump's style, a permission slip to vote for Donald Trump. Now, how much is it going to move the needle? We could debate that. Maybe not that much. Maybe it does move the needle 0.2% in a state like Pennsylvania. Well, that's what's going to dictate the outcome. So every little bit helps. You can't say it can't move the needle at all, but does it really, change everything that much? We can have that discussion, but it's the final argument of Donald Trump's political career that we see on a debate stage, and it was J.D. Vance to make that final argument. Now, let's talk about this debate beforehand. Let's talk about how the media portray J.D. Vance. They portray J.D. Vance as weird, creepy, inexperienced, unfit to serve, and his favorable ratings kind of, plummeted. I wouldn't say plummeted because, technically they're going up, but his unfavorable ratings rose because of it. Not necessarily among Trump voters, but among certain independents, certain Biden voters. I've always said the gap can narrow. Tim Walz, on the other hand, he got glowing coverage. He was a horrendous pick for Kamala Harris to make, although given the fact that a lot of people didn't want to join her sinking ship of a ticket, it made a little bit of sense. Oh, he can be this white working class minstrel show guy. He can be the clown. He could be Mr. Jazz Hands on the campaign trail. That's what he's basically been up to this point. He's kind of a clown. He goes to a Michigan football game against Minnesota, roots for Michigan, and then gets booed by the Michigan fans in ultra-liberal Ann Arbor. It's an optics failure by every stretch of the term. And, the media's hyping him up. Oh, he's like the dad. He's like the normal guy. Oh, J.D. Vance is weird. Well, I really find it hard to believe that if you're watching that debate for the first time and then that's the appearance of J.D. Vance, that you're seeing J.D. Vance in a negative light. He's intelligent. He's quick-witted. He is smart. He went out there and he utterly decimated Tampon Tim. He decimated Tampon Tim Walz to the point where Tampon Tim Walz was forced to back into a little corner and get in the beta mode, not from like I'm being the bigger man like Vance was, where he's like, I agree with you on this, but he's like, well, I actually agree with JD, on this stuff, because he was thrown for a loop. It was like watching the Obama-Romney debate back in 2012, the first presidential debate that I actually ever watched in my lifetime, where everybody going into the debate was saying Obama's going to win, but Romney kind of did, he did well. Now, that was not the final debate. There was a lot that happened after that, and Romney was already so far behind and couldn't connect with the people in the states that mattered to the point where that debate didn't end up mattering a whole lot at the end of the day. But we're talking about the final argument, 35 days, 36 days out of an election, and you got J.D. Vance, who has gotten all the negative media coverage from all the worst networks in the world. He's in a 3-on-1 debate where every question, 95% of questions at least, happen to be aimed at ambushing Vance and ambushing Trump, and he strongmanned his way out every single time, and Tim Walz came off a little shaky. He looked old in comparison to Vance, which the optics definitely matter. You got Trump and Kamala. Obviously, you had Trump and Biden before. Trump comes off as younger, even though he's only 4 years younger than Trump and Kamala. Trump came off as energetic to the point where the media was forced to go in their TDS rampage and call him unhinged, when in reality, he has the aura that prevents the age thing from becoming a negative. When you look at somebody like J.D. Vance, he's unknown. This is his ability to define himself. And he's got an ambush, a 3-on-1 ambush, and he comes out on top. That's the right selection you need to make. And he's somebody that articulated Donald Trump and the case for Donald Trump well. Tim Walz did not really articulate the case for Kamala Harris. He talked more about Minnesota than he talked about the good things that Harris is doing in the White House. That's not something that is really that good of a sign. And it's not like he really had a good performance in terms of like being evasive. He couldn't evade the questions, but he botched the questions. I mean, this guy literally, and this is not a joke, this is not edited, these are his own words, and he misspoke. And he acknowledged that he misspoke a few times during the debate. It's like, why are you trying to make a fool out of yourself? Why are you trying to say, I sometimes mix words up? That's not something you want to say for leadership. This is not like I'm going to try to label myself so you can't label me. This is an 8 Mile. This is the White House that you're dealing with right here, right now. And Tim Walz went out there and he just completely fell on his face. And J.D. Vance was the bigger man at the end of it. He didn't come off like he was sloppy or creepy or weird. He came off like he was intelligent. He came off like he was with it. And he did what he had to do to reach out to women. They talk about the whole abortion issue or the childless cat lady's comment. That never even came up. But Tim Walz was dumb enough to bring up Springfield, and I didn't think he was that dumb. And then Vance pounced on it and completely decimated him on it because it's true. Why are you having all these people dumped into this country? You're more upset with the statement about cats that was first, came up with some residents in the city instead of the actual fact that the city has 20,000 people dumped into this small town of 40,000 people, and then you think that it's okay, and you think that it's fine because it's legal, because she gave him legal status. But Tim Walz, he said verbatim that he was friends with school shooters. We're going to play the clip. It's 3 seconds long, but this is actually the clip that he had, if we may play it here.
Shooters, I've seen it. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I've become friends.
And that's actually the real clip. This is not a joke. This is not a troll. That's actually Tim Walz. That's the way it is. So you look at the way he conducted himself in the debate, how many gaffes he had. J.D. Vance didn't have a single gaffe. Tim Walz had plenty of gaffes. And those gaffes make the difference. Those gaffes, in terms of the debate, when you're trying to defend your candidate, and even if you're talking about an issue that is relatively favorable to you, like abortion, like guns, and you keep making these statements like this that shoot your own campaign in the foot, that is not something that's a winning issue. That is not something that helps you out whatsoever in any universe. That does not help you out by any stretch of the term. That does not help you out. So you look at that. You look what he did in terms of his just, trying to actually meet JD in the middle. What it did was it kind of disarmed the persona of, he's like this boogeyman. Oh, no, I agree with him. I agree with him on this. Even when he tried to come off as like bipartisan, he kind of made JD and Trump look more palatable in the process. And that's not something that I think that his campaign really sought out to do, but I feel like he had to do it on the fly because of the fact that it was such a disastrous debate, or it was such a disastrous start for the debate for him, to the point where there was nothing else that really was able to be done from a perspective that would have, kind of helped advance him. He couldn't do it. And that's kind of the main issue that he had during the debate. And it continued and it persisted. And you kind of see what goes on. You make these gaffes. You make your opponent look better than expectations when you set the they set really low expectations for this guy. They were gutter expectations. They were, sub-ground expectations. We're talking about, 1,000 feet below sea level. and somehow he ended up in the Marianas Trench. Like, that is not something you want to do when you're entering a debate, when the people in the polls, they favor you. And I don't know what the CNN debate poll is showing. Maybe a super chatter is going to send it in. CNN debate polls are ridiculously biased. They had Kamala Harris beating Mike Pence in a landslide in the VP debate in 2020 that Mike Pence objectively won, but still, regardless, it was kind of calm. It was mild-mannered. But for Democrats, did that exactly help them when Vance was the boogeyman and they made him look more palatable? No, because Walz didn't really do anything to come across as likable. He didn't give people on the fence a reason to vote for Kamala. But Donald Trump is the boogeyman. He's the evil boogeyman. Well, Walz started off kind of pouncing on Trump, but he kind of had to shy away from it. And he tried to come back for a drive-by shot at the end. It didn't work out too well for him. That's not a victory. That's not a debate win. It's not a win, period. I don't understand how they could spin this as a victory for Walz. There was no moment where Vance slipped up, and there was no moment where Walz really shined. He tried with abortion, but J.D. Vance caught him off guard, and Walz lied about his own state law. How many times do we have to tell you guys this? In the 9th month, in the state of Minnesota, if there is a botched abortion, the doctors have the permission to follow through with the abortion after the baby is technically born. There is no way you can spin it if you actually read the law. He hasn't read his own law. He's a BS artist. Walz is a BS artist. We'll try to keep it clean tonight, but it's true. Walz is an artist of BS. We understand, and it did not work out too well for him because, Vance is able to call him out on it. Vance is somebody that accurately towed the line effectively, hit him on a lot of things, and came out the winner, so much so to the point where CNN has to admit it. And when CNN admits it, they're saying, oh, Vance is more experienced. Walz bombed the debate. Oh, he's not the best debater. Like, are you going to see that call go the other way? No, obviously not. Donald Trump, they said, oh, well, he was, they'll always find a way to spin it to be negative unless he's debating Joe Biden and they want Joe Biden out of the race. That's pretty much it. But when you look at J.D. Vance and you look at Tim Walz, it's clear. You have a clear distinction on that debate stage. You have a clear distinction. You have somebody who's willing to go out there, defend Donald Trump, and make his messaging and record seem more palatable to people on the fence versus somebody that just failed to do that. And when you're in a VP debate, you could say maybe it doesn't move the needle. I don't know how much it moves the needle. It could be nothing, but it doesn't move the needle in the direction of Kamala Harris like Democrats would have hoped. In the final argument, it moved the needle in Donald Trump's column, you could say by how much. But Donald Trump likely is the favorite anyways in this election, and I think people know that. And we'll be looking at super chats, and we'll be looking at what you guys have to say about this. But those are kind of the main takeaways, and I'm sure you guys are going to be in the mix. But we talk about everything from the contrast. Vance is more youthful. He's more intelligent. He's more likable. All the things they said about Vance, they're just gone in an instant just by putting him in front of the TV for X amount of time. And it kind of surprises me that they even were willing to do this sort of thing. It really does, because they had him pinned down as the boogeyman. They can't pin him down as the boogeyman anymore. You had people that were, I wouldn't say upset, but they were disappointed or didn't like the Vance pick originally. They're like, J.D. Vance 2028, as I predicted would happen if Vance goes out there and has a good night. I always said, even though I think that there is some impact for this election, you could make a case that impacts the 2028 Republican nomination more than it impacts the outcome for 2024, because it's a bigger moving part for that in terms of how Vance is able to go out there and be effective. And Vance went out there and he won. And Democrats are going to try to memory hold this debate now because they have no other choice to, and forget like it ever really happened. And it's a good closing argument debate for the Republicans to have, because you have a debate. All the topics are slanted against you. All the questions are slanted against you. And you somehow strongman your way to being, the objective victor. That's an impressive performance by any stretch of the term. By any stretch of the term. It's like, you're down all your starting lineup in some sport, and you manage to be playing the best team in the league, and that's what the media is claiming, and that's what the record is showing, and you manage to come out with a resounding victory. It's the same exact concept, and that's what J.D. Vance did, an upset victory in the debate. I thought he would win on substance. I didn't know that the media would be admitting that he had a decisive victory on substance, because they have no other way to spin it. The guy lied again about China, He gave a non-answer about China. They didn't talk about the stolen valor, but to be fair, they didn't talk about the Vance controversial statements either. But, Walz, you talk about missed opportunities for Trump in the first debate. Walz had quite a bit of them in this debate, and even Democrats are disappointed. Now, personally, I still think that Trump won the first debate, or the debate with Harris, I guess you would say. I actually think he had more missed opportunities against Biden in that debate, but Biden just collapsed. But Vance hit on pretty much everything he needed to. Maybe you could say the whole border bill lie, but it's so absurd, and I don't think anybody blames Donald Trump for the border. And Vance hammered home the fact that Kamala is responsible for undoing the executive orders, and that's what matters first. But I'd like to see a little pushback against the border bill lie, because it's the most absurd lie in the history of politics in terms of gaslighting, this border bill would have solved the problem, and that James Langford is actually like a conservative and not owned by the Open Borders lobby, which he is. But that's not the point. So we have CNN saying Walz underperformed. That's not good news. We have Donald Trump's War Room accurately posting the statements about Walz, saying he's become friends with school shooters. That's like even Biden wouldn't have a gaffe like that. New York Times says Harris chose a governing partner, not a running mate capable of winning the VP debate. Also, not good news. Then they said he was over-prepared. That's the cope. Or he was overly nervous. He had an uneven performance, dodging the questions. And yeah, that's true. See, they even couldn't sweep it up for the guy. But like I said, it's about the permission slip. This guy's the boogeyman. He comes out and he's measured. He's intelligent. You talk about those like post-grad types that might like some of Trump's policies, don't like his tone. Vance did a great job articulating to them why they should vote for Donald Trump. The college-educated white men who may not like Kamala Harris, but even, reaching out to women in certain, instances and flipping the whole abortion and childcare discussion back on Walz in an effective manner, flipping healthcare back on Walz in an effective manner, and even climate change. You talk about the issues Democrats typically win on. I can't even point to a single issue that Tim Walz won that debate on, and Vance coming out with a strong closing statement, tying in a topic that wasn't even touched base on, talking about Kamala Harris. She's been there for 4 years. That's something Trump mentioned in the closing statement in his debate with Harris. He could have mentioned it more throughout the debate with Harris, but he has been mentioning it a lot in the campaign trail, and it's a very accurate point. She's been there for X amount of time. What has she done to solve the problems facing our country? Nothing. She's done absolute zero to fix any problem. She's caused problems, and you have chaos going on overseas. Walz comes out talking about foreign policy. Vance shuts him down effectively. You're saying, Donald Trump, we need leadership like Kamala because of what's going on in the world. Donald Trump is not president, and she is basically the president. She's the vice president, and usually you could say it's a ceremonial role, but the problem is our president is not, he's barely alive at this point. He's on the beach. He's barely alive. Who even knows what's going on? They had to coup him out because he couldn't beat Donald Trump, and now they're kind of scratching their heads as to if that was even the best job or the best decision for them, because Kamala Harris is currently imploding down in Pennsylvania, down in the Sunbelt states, barely hanging on by a thread in Michigan and Wisconsin, 2 states where she's probably down significantly in the internal polls. The demography is not there in terms of trends. What demographic is she doing better with than Joe Biden in 2020, with maybe the exception of white college-educated women? I don't see a demographic. I really don't, which is why turnout's important for sure. But at the end of the day, it's like, Donald Trump is the overwhelming favorite in this election, 2-1, honestly, at this point. And if the polls look the way they do on election night or going into the election, I would say the odds might even increase. It's not a done deal for sure. We got a long way to go, but tonight was not a win for Democrats, and they hoped they could have a win to give them some momentum, and they didn't exactly see that, which is a major problem for them, especially given what they wanted to convey. They were unable to do that, and it's not good. It's not good, and we're still waiting on a debate poll. I'd like to see a debate poll, as we always do. Okay, we have the CBS poll shows J.D. Vance won the debate. This is rare. This is rare. JD Vance only by 1 point, they say, but that's not good. That's still not good, given the lean, given the bias, and that we know the debate watchers. We understood the poll probably was, to be slanted in one way, the Vance way, and he comes out on top of a debate poll from a mainstream media network that ran a hostile debate. That is not something that's good for Tim Walz. It's not good for Kamala Harris. It's not good at all. In fact, the 17% that say tie, they just probably are a little too scared to admit the truth of that debate, as we see there. But you would not see a poll like that. You just wouldn't see a poll like that even for Mike Pence in his debates. You wouldn't see a poll like that. You didn't see that in 2020 in his debate with Harris that he objectively won. We know how these debate polls are slanted. And even then, that's not a good margin, especially given the fact that debate watchers typically lean a little bit Democrat because they're typically a little bit higher propensity. That is not good news. So we got 4,000 live viewers in chat. We have a lot of super chats. Like the stream down below, guys. Like the stream. Let's get to 1,000 likes. Somebody else said a poll had Vance at 63 and Walz at 27. Well, that's big time stuff right there. That's huge. That is huge. So you talk about that. Vance objectively doing well. We're still waiting. I'd like to see a poll out of CNN, of course, because those polls are the signature, even though we know they have a very left-leaning bias. They always conduct one. Maybe they're not going to conduct one. We'll see. Maybe they will show Walz leading. I don't know. I really don't know. We understand how they operate, though, so it doesn't matter too much to me in terms of my opinion. It doesn't matter in terms of the actual voter opinion that matters, especially even though CBS of all networks, they're admitting it. Johnny Heartdog, we'll start off with him for the Super Chats, saying, I watched most of that debate but got bored and fed up towards the end and turned it off. Vance won it hands down, not even close. The propagandists who pretend to be journalists will claim Tim won. Well, even they're not sweeping it up. As for how much it matters, I don't think it's a needle mover. I don't think it's the nail in the coffin for the Harris campaign. But is it definitely a net positive? Yeah, we can question how big the net positive is, but it's definitely a net positive for him. King Trojan 17 says Vance, wow, chances of a Trump popular vote win. I think that the chance is there, but I would say it's probably about a 1 in 3 chance. It depends on what the final polling looks like and how the next month goes down the stretch. But Donald Trump doesn't need to win the popular vote to win the election, so it doesn't quite matter. You'd like to win it, but it's not going to dictate the outcome. Johnny Heartdog for 10 says anticlimactic. Knew Vance would win, Walz would lie, and after 45 minutes I got bored. It's not going to move the needle anyways. That said, I've never failed to be impressed with Vance, best VP pick. A lot of people are saying that. Mike Oxard says JD secured the 2028 GOP nomination tonight. A lot of people are saying it, and I believe it's true. Ice Cream Junkie says, I know it won't move the needle, but watching JD cook Tim like that was a special kind of satisfying. Exactly. And we had to reload the super chat page. Chrome is off the wall tonight with its glitching, so I do apologize if there are any interruptions. But we have more super chats. Jared the American says Walz look like a love child of Biden and Nixon. Yeah, that's a brutal one. Ice Cream Junkie says my current predictions: Trump wins 297-241. Only Michigan goes blue. Thoughts? I mean, that's a fair prediction. I think Michigan could go red, but I could see it going blue. If you talk about the bluest of the seven swing states, I think it's a fair prediction. Absolutely. Brandon for 10 says I really enjoyed this debate because they had a respect for one another. Yeah, but that definitely helps J.D. Vance more than it helps Walz, for sure. The fact that it was more mild-mannered, because Vance was painted as the boogeyman, whereas Walz was like the good guy. And while Walz kind of had to concede the whole, like, I guess you would say, this, like, oh, he's going to come off like he's the madman arc. He didn't go down that, which I guess was good for him. J.D. Vance and him, they did appear to get along well. But the fact that they did that boosted Vance more than it boosted Walz. That's the point. JD McSwag says, Trump posted about the friends with blank 7 times. Yeah. Ice Cream Junkie says, if Vance is the nominee in 28, who would be some good VP? We'll get there when we get there. I'll say that. There's a long way to go. If you asked me who would be the VP pick in 2024 4 years ago, I didn't even know who the hell JD Vance was. I'm glad I know who he is now, though. The Video Maker 2341 says, I've become friends. Yeah, exactly. That is not good. Not a good gaffe to have. Apex Caliber says, DeSimps mad, JD usurped us. Exactly. But the difference is JD Vance, he's not like, they'll say, well, why do you like Vance when he's not charismatic, but you didn't like DeSantis? Well, first of all, Vance is not trying to be president. He's trying to be the number 2. We'll cross the bridge when we get to the presidency. Second of all, in the short few years he's been in office, Vance has kind of come into his own with his charisma a lot more than DeSantis, who comes off more like robotic, which is kind of the issue. He came off a little bit more awkward. If you want to talk about weird, the weird label would have applied and stuck like glue to DeSantis. Whether you like the guy as governor, whether you wanted him for president initially, the guy comes off as awkward. He does not have the riz to achieve the presidency in this day and age. He just doesn't. Steve Dow says, is it Tampon Tim or Tiananmen? I think Tampon Tim is the best nickname ever. I don't think he needs to change it. Donald Trump, with his nickname game, people have been skeptical lately ever since he left the White House because it's hard to top something like Pocahontas. It's hard to top, some of these other nicknames he had. Sleepy Joe, Creepy Joe, Sloppy Joe, Crooked Hillary, Crooked Joe. I mean, the sanctimonious was kind of funny, but it's hard for some people to understand what it means because there's a lot of people that don't know the definition of sanctimonious. But for those who know, it's pretty funny. But Tampon Tim, I think, is the funniest. I think Kamabla is underrated because of how absurd it is. It's just like it fits somehow, even though it's like it doesn't fit to the point where it actually fits. Comrade Kamala is fine. It's sufficient, I would say. It's not like the best nickname in the world, but it accurately, hammers home the point that she is a San Francisco liberal. It is. Let's see. Alex Sorico says the one place that Trump needs to go is to a native reservation and promise to end the trust system to give natives control of their homes. Well, are they that consequential in any swing state besides maybe Arizona? He's in good with the Lumbee tribe in North Carolina, which is somewhat consequential, but they typically do vote Republican now. I don't think that's changing. Napoleon the Great's for 10 says Vance clearly destroyed Walz in the first half, which is what most people want. Walz did a little better near the end, but that's when people draw their conclusions or begin to leave. Trump 24. I don't think he necessarily picked it up much. Mr. Jimmy says Lindsey Davis, CNN, MSNBC compared his performance to Biden's and also bragged about Taylor Swift. That is how you know Walz lost. Yeah. I mean, they talk about the people that are in the tent and they bring up Dick Cheney. It's like, why do you want to tout that endorsement? That is not a good endorsement to have. You might as well tout the Putin endorsement. I think Putin right now probably has a higher favorable rating than Dick Cheney had when Dick Cheney left office, if you want to be completely honest. So, I don't know. Ryan Drame says, to all the JD Vance haters out there, how do you feel now? Vance killed it. Nobody gave him a chance. I think he reshaped how people will look at him. Well, I really do, and I think that's crucial. Like I said, 2024, we could debate the impact, but 2028, I think it really bolstered him because he gave a really, really, really solid performance tonight, and even the liberal media is forced to admit that, whether they like him, whether they don't like him. And even though it was a 3-on-1 ambush again, maybe not as outwardly, abrasive as the debate that we saw on, ABC, which I think Trump navigated fine, but Vance navigated it spectacularly because they thought, oh, we'll help out Tampon Timmy because we're going to give him all the easy questions he's going to get. And you know what happened? JD Vance, which is the running mate of Donald Trump, he came out on top, and that's what he needed to do tonight. Even in their polling, he came out on top, which I didn't exactly predict to happen in some of these polls. King 94 says Walz is a CCP plant. Let's win this election. Well, we got to get out and vote and get other people to vote, especially in these swing states. Apex Caliber says Frank Luntz group 12-2 for JD from 5-9. That is a big shift. A big shift. David Baker says, could you talk about Vance standing up to the fact check? And yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. He walked all over the moderators with that one, and he cooked. He cooked in that department. Apex Caliber says Walz cost Harris men, but JD gained Trump women. Yeah. Like, Walz is not somebody that has appeal to men. He appeals to, like, the liberal men living in, like, Madison, Wisconsin, maybe Ann Arbor, Michigan, even where he got booed. But, you know, presumably he got booed by, like, conservative U of M fans. And, you know, some of these other places where they're very liberal. He can appeal to those people. But the rural men that he once did have that appeal to when he was first running for Congress as a total fraud and facade, he's lost that appeal even against Scott Jensen. I saw him on Fox right before the debate where he gave the rundown. And he talked about the thin skin. I don't think that he showed himself to be thin-skinned in the conventional sense, but he was clearly cornered and bothered, and he was forced to kind of like pivot, and he's going home tonight, and he's not going to be celebrating. He's going to be like, oh, I messed up. I let people down. Yeah, that's why they're keeping him off the campaign trail. I wonder why. UNSC Connor says, gotta say, I preferred someone like Vivek for the VP pick, but Vance really showed his value tonight. Well, maybe you're going to get Vivek in Vance's hopefully old Senate seat come January. We'll see what happens. Obviously, you'd probably have to win a special election primary for that. But Cali Patriots says Minnesota is an underrated flip in 24. Not saying it will happen, but there's a bigger chance than the pundits are giving it. I don't think it's a main focus. If Trump wins it out of nowhere, we're going to have a great night. We'll be celebrating, but I don't think he needs to waste time or money in Minnesota. I think there's 7 states that are worth a damn in this election cycle, and Trump is effectively targeting them. It's not like 2020 where he's going to Ohio and New Hampshire and Minnesota and Florida and all these states that there's like zero shot in retrospect they could flip, and then you ignore Georgia. That's not something you want to do this election cycle. Steve Dow says one could argue Vance articulates Trump position better than Donald Trump. I mean, yeah, but Donald Trump is not this like politician who's polished. Vance isn't either, but his IQ is off the charts, and he can talk in an effective manner, and that's exactly what he did. Whereas Donald Trump, I think he explains things well to the average person, but there's also a group of people who, you know, they're the people that care about things like tone for some reason because they you know, maybe they can afford their groceries or whatnot. And Vance kind of can speak to them a little bit more. You talk about the suburbs. They said Vance is not a good fit for the suburbs. No, I think he's a great fit for the suburbs, which is what these morons in the Republican establishment don't understand because they've never been to a suburb in their life for all we know. They live in their basements. Is that J.D. Vance can appeal to those people who make over $100,000 a year, who are swing voters, who, you know, may be voters who are open to Trump, but maybe don't like his tone. Vance can effectively communicate to those people, and he did that tonight. He absolutely did it tonight. And in terms of Vance's election, he outran Donald Trump in every single metro area in Ohio outside of the I believe it was these parts of the Cleveland area in terms of the raw percentage margin. That was against a strong candidate who was from Cleveland as well. But they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the raw facts or the data. It's all about the mythical vibes for a lot of these people. And they're being proven wrong in real time, hopefully. Catholic Samurai says Rasmussen, 927, says Trump only trails Harris by 3 in Minnesota within margin of error, flippable territory. I'm not ready to go there yet. I'm not ready yet. Maybe send Vance for a rally or something, but Trump, I don't know. I think it's way too early to spend resources there. And I don't think it's because, I don't think Walz is helping Harris in Minnesota. I think if anything, he's hurting her. You're going to see high turnout in the rural areas. Big time. Let's see. Billy and the Clonosaurus for $20 says Walz won the debate. Vance failed to get under his skin and showed he was out of dirty tricks when he started blaming Walz for Facebook collusion. Vance was completely non-responsive to Trump's conceptual platform position. You're a moron, dude. Like, I hate to break it to you, but you got ratioed 32-1. 32-1. You got ratioed even harder than Tim Walz is being ratioed right now for his comments where he claimed that he befriended school shooters. Your opinion can be thrown in the garbage can where it belongs because that's exactly what it is. It's garbage. Cali Patriot for 2 says ratio of Trump to Kamala signs in New Hampshire is 10-1. Okay, yard sign analysis is not everything. I've told people this. It's encouraging to see so many signs in Michigan in places where you didn't have as many, not because it shows, oh, Trump's going to win because all these signs, but because it tells people there's an election coming up and those lower propensity voters are going to be more likely to get out for Trump. And I've seen signs here down in Texas. They don't just say Trump. They say vote for Trump November 5th like your life depends on it. There are signs that say here in Fort Worth, Texas, X amount of Christians per year don't vote. It's demonic letting all these, potential votes be cast by shady means, but you're not voting. That's absolutely true. You can't allow that to happen. You can't. You have to outvote these people. You have to get out and vote. And the fact that is what the signs are saying should tell you everything you need to know. Maryland Guy 0326 says, I will admit that I wasn't all in on Vance at first. Now I see why Trump picked him. He's sharp as a rock. Exactly. Neil Ray says, JD put on a masterclass on debating. Amazing. I agree 100,000%. Duraninked 1 says, besides, I'm friends with school shooters. Quote, what Trump ads would you make from the Walz debate performance? Well, I don't know if there are really any to make, but there was nothing that was shining for Walz to make, and that's kind of the other problem because I think that's what they were hoping or that's what they were banking on. And instead, they humanized J.D. Vance, who they tried to make out to be this weird guy. Now they can't use that anymore. I think the weird guy would be the guy who's friends with the school massacre. I don't even want to use the term, but you get the point. Timothy Lovis says, do you think this will affect the polls at all? How much? Well, if there's a bump for Trump, it could also be response bias, okay? The people that like to come in and say, well, you won't say this the other way. No, I'm saying it the other way, okay? You don't know anything. You don't know what you're talking about. As for the response bias, could there be some genuine shift that underlies it? Yeah, I mean, there always is. Will it be permanent? I don't know. But the polls are largely noise. I mean, this is going to be a close election. Everybody knows it's going to be close. We got to get out and vote. That's what matters. And I think that if you talk about who won over more voters tonight, did Vance sell Trump better than Walz sold Harris? Absolutely. By every stretch of the term. Absolutely. Timothy Lovis says, did you think this will affect the polls at all? If not, okay, we did that one. Never mind. Steve Dow says, too bearish on Trump's odds, 50-50 to win popular vote, no less than... Hey, I hope you're right. Joe Knoll for 5. Andrew Broadwater says, I'll be at the Butler rally this Saturday. Yeah, that's going to be huge. Hopefully it's a great rally in terms of the delivery. He's got to make it big. Lean into it as well. Lean into it. Yeah, they try to take me down right here. I'm still standing. Lean into it. That's how you win. Jadid McSwag says, should have jumped on the well, he did jump on the second time he said. He's like, there was something Vance said. I don't remember what it was, but he brought it up again. It's like, I might have misspoken tonight. It's like, I don't know what Vance said. Somebody else probably remembers better than me. But a clever fish says, thanks for the poll coverage. Appreciate your vid as well. Thank you for the support. Johnny Hartdog for 20 says, a little off topic, but there's a voting bloc in Pennsylvania that people are overlooking, and it's the Amish community. They rarely vote, but this cycle they'll vote for Trump, and that will make a huge difference. We hear about the Amish every cycle, and it's an overblown thing, but it helps. I mean, it helps. And they're upset because of the Shapiro administration and what they're doing to some of these Amish farmers. And RFK Jr., I believe, has been talking about that a lot to these people. And he's also endorsing Donald Trump and working with him on the issue. That's something that helps out a lot. Now, will it get that many people to the polls? These people are hard to reach. I don't know. But if it helps out with turnout a little bit here and there, every vote counts in Pennsylvania. Trump has to make up 80,000 worth of ground. I think he's already there, but you want to pad that margin by as much as possible. Johnny Hot Dog, we did that one. Peter G for 20 now. MAGA people don't want to be preached to when they cannot afford groceries. It's that simple. Exactly. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, hold on. Are you trying to come in here and say that Vance was doing that, or are you saying that Walz was doing that? Because I tend to agree that people, they don't want to say, well, we've tried to do all this, it didn't work out. It's like, no, it's on you. People want to afford groceries. It's going to help Trump when people talk about it. Jeffrey Bryson says, JD Vance wiped the floor with Walz. My favorite Vance moment is when he went scorched earth on Caitlin Collins. Well, that wasn't Caitlin Collins, unless you're talking about when he was interviewed by Caitlin Collins before on CNN, which he was. The Jaded Kriegsman with a member chat says, not surprised he looked like a deer in the headlights. Minnesota media always gives him a pass. Also worked for Minnesota government. It's the most disorganized place I ever worked. Yeah, it's a shame because it's a beautiful state. There's a lot in common with Wisconsin. There's a lot in common with Michigan in terms of the landscape. And you don't exactly have the same leadership. You've got Minneapolis and St. Paul running the state, and it's kind of a shame. But yeah, Cameron Campbell says looks are important to debates. Gay men and women will be drawn to Vance's eyes. I don't know about that one, but the bottom line is that, yeah, Vance looked the part. Walz looked a little bit sloppy, and his performance was even sloppier than the looks. And that's not good. That's the thing, is that they make fun of people like, Rick Scott. Oh, he's bald. He doesn't, it's like supposed to be a knock on him, and it probably is an effective knock, but then they act like, oh, well, people will love Walz. He's like the dad character. He didn't really come off like that at all tonight. He got bodied completely. Michigan nationalists talk about how Vance made Walz admit that he and Kamala would reinstitute the illegal, unpopular individual mandate. Yeah, he kind of danced a little bit around it, but the fact that he brought that up is like a negative. That is not something that's popular. That's why Obamacare was so unpopular for so long, was because you had that individual mandate. And Donald Trump saved Obamacare and reduced costs by getting rid of it. Because it's like, yeah, some people, maybe they don't want to be on health insurance. They deserve the choice to not have to pay X amount of money, especially if they don't really need it. And you're making these people pay. It's a regulation, and it's driving up costs for everybody, especially in a lot of these swing states. And that's not something that's good. It's not something that's good at all. Jaco Maxes would prefer Vivek for governor. DeWine is terrible. Well, Vivek is somebody that talks about issues that are more like at the national level. I think there's more he can do, as a senator in terms of trying to be a voice and a force and a fighter against the corruption in the federal government. As for Ohio, those races are a little bit less polarizing. You never know what could happen electorally speaking. But senator, I think Vance would be a phenomenal pick for replacing Vance in the Senate. As for governor, I mean, there's plenty of people that would be serviceable in that role, better than DeWine for sure. American Nerd 76 says, Rep, if today's debate was a sword fight, Walz brought a tiny knife, Vance brought a lightsaber. That's a good way of putting it. Narland for 10 says, Kamila. Apex Caliber says, Virginia continues to spell doom for them. Sleeper flip. I'm not ready to say sleeper flip yet. I'm ready to say that it's like they become George R. R. Martin from South Park. The ballots are on the way. They're on the way. They're on the way. Oh, they're coming. Yeah, I don't see it quite yet. Now, Democrats are probably going to win Virginia. I'm just saying this whole the early vote is inflated for Republicans. Well, where are the Democrat totals at all? I don't see any totals, even when the mail's coming in, that look, precisely phenomenal for them. Even in 2021, they were pointing to early data that looked solid. They can't even do that now. Now, do I think Trump's going to go out there and win Virginia? I think Nova's too much to overcome. I think he'd have to really improve with college-educated whites. And in some places in the country, he might do that. But is it going to be by enough to win a state like Georgia, where there's all these bureaucrats, government employees? That's a demographic Kamala will do fine with. Trump will do better in Nova because he'll improve among white working class voters, the few that are up there. He'll improve with Hispanics, maybe certain Asian voters. But that's pretty much about it. I think that Virginia, if he gets it within 5, it's a huge moral victory. And it means he's taking North Carolina, he's taking Georgia, and probably Pennsylvania, depending on how the gradient shift continues. But it's not a midterm year. It's not midterm elections where every state's got their own environment. This is a presidential election. If you're using 2022 to predict 2024, you're wrong. And if you're using 2020 to predict 2022, you were wrong. In many cases. Many cases. Obviously, certain things are true, and we know that, but LinnerX52 for 20 says 2 body language experts just destroyed Walz. At least he didn't do his Chris Farley entrance. JD Vance just made his first potential MAGA POTUS installment. That could be a motivating factor to some voters. Well, no, it's true. Like, obviously, I'd vote for Trump regardless, but the fact that he's got competent people around him and he's done a complete and total 180 from his first term and the flaws of his first term is the biggest motivating factor. It's not only do you get to stop the madness and get term 1 Trump back, but you get peak Trump and you have people around him. You go from Mike Pence to JD Vance. I mean, that's a big time upgrade by every stretch of the term. And they're not able to really effectively hit Vance on the articulate policy angle. So now they try to hit him on personality, make him out to be the boogeyman, and he decimates him in real time. Tim Walz will never show his face again on the campaign trail. I can guarantee you that. They're going to try to forget he exists as much as possible. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, she's got work to do on her end. But you talk about the Vance events and the Vance rallies, the attendance is probably going to go up a little bit, which definitely helps the campaign out to a certain degree in terms of engagement. Splice Stream for 2 says, got a job after a year's search. Thanks for the... Well, congratulations. I know it's difficult out there. Apex Caliber says, if Rasmussen is right on New York and New Jersey, Trump wins Virginia. Well, Rasmussen, I think, has Trump down in Virginia, so that's technically not true. But it is encouraging, and I believe New Jersey could be within 10, and I believe Delaware could be within 10. I really do. Republicans, I wish they'd have the balls to, make that congressional race a little bit more high profile. Emphasis on balls, by the way. BB says Vance created a sense of security for people on the fence. People needed to see who would potentially replace Trump. What are your margins in Texas and Florida? I'd say 7 to 9 in Texas. I'd say 9 to 11 in Florida, somewhere in that range. Florida is not competitive. That voter registration advantage and we'll get the early vote data out of Florida. We're not going to make that prediction just yet. It could be closer. It could be a wider win, but we'll get that data and we'll take a look at it. But the polls, once again, in Florida are awful. They're underestimating Trump significantly. They misunderstand the change in the electorate once again, just like they did in 2022. They're doing it again in 2024. I'm not saying Trump's going to win Florida by 20 points like DeSantis and Rubio did, but is he going to win it by 10? I think it easily. He easily could. Let's see. Billy and the Clonosaurus for 10 says, thanks for the awesome roast of my analysis. Positive vibes all around. Well, I'm not sure which side you're on. That's the thing, because you say something before, I don't know what it was. You say Vance lost the debate. Nobody thinks Vance lost the debate. Nobody on the left, they don't think Vance lost the debate. And you're coming in here saying, well, Vance lost the debate. I think you probably wanted to get roasted, so we did what we had to do. And I'm glad you're a good sport about it, because some people are not that good of a sport about it. But what can I say? So we have another super chat we're going to go to right here. We have LF Fun says, LTE is a Vance hater since 22 must be in shambles. Well, who cares? Who cares? American Nerd 76 says, even though Walz was clearly uncomfortable, I think this was the most civil. Yeah, well, it was civil. But like I said, it being civil was not good for Tim Walz because it made Vance humanized, whereas Walz has been humanized by the media. And Vance trying to be this guy saying, you know what, Tim, I agree with Tim on this, I do this. It kind of made Vance the bigger man because he made the debate more civil. He made the debate more civil. And you talk about the people who didn't like Vance, on the fence about this election, they came into liking Vance and probably liking Trump more in the process. So what can I say? Basic says, if Trump wins Pennsylvania, is the election won? It's not technically over, but it is close to a must-win for sure. The Videomaker 2341 says, I could see the House Dem in Delaware underperforming. Well, if they highlight something like that, I would like to see that, but I don't know if they will. Okay, we missed a few. Cali Patriot says, my brother's a Biden-Trump voter. Trump will win. Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Steve Dow for $50 says if there's a 50% chance that a 2024 polling error is at least as bad as 2020, then Trump has a greater than 50% chance of winning the popular vote, looking at voter registration and Gallup data. Yeah, the Gallup data is very telling to me because that's never wrong. It's never been wrong. You talk about the 13 little keychain. Oh, CNN 51 for Vance, 49 for Walz. Oh, they had to make it close. They had to do it. They had to make it close. Oh, okay. This is funny. We'll put this up. I think David Chalian's face says it all, by the way. Let's see. There we go. And there's the face of David Chalian there. But Vance wins the CNN debate poll. That is not easy for a Republican to do. That was pulling teeth. They had to get the sample perfectly just to say, okay, well, it was close, but like we can't be that shameless. Vance, like I said, he ended up, what's it called? He ended up winning that. For some reason, I don't see the change on the screen. That's strange. It's not updating. That's okay. Whatever. You guys can find it on Twitter or X. But thank you, Steve, for the 50. Let's see. We have Gabster13B saying, Trump is in the bag in Virginia. I'm in Roanoke, and it's Trump no matter what the news say. Roanoke City and Salem, mostly Trump. Well, Roanoke City is from what I understand, that area is more Republican. But it's not in the bag. Nothing's in the bag. North Carolina's not in the bag. Now, Harris doesn't really have much of a shot there, but nothing's in the bag. You can't take it. We can't take anything for granted. But is Trump in a solid position in Virginia compared to years past? Yes. Are they getting ridiculous turnout there in the early vote from low propensity right-leaning voters? The data points towards yes. Why would that not be the case in North Carolina? Why would that not be the case in Pennsylvania? Why would it not be? Competence of the GOP in every state, I mean, obviously it can play a role, but it's not like a 10-point difference like it is in midterm elections when it comes down to turnout. It's not. That's why Trump's not winning Florida by DeSantis margins. But if you take the 2022 electorate, Trump going out there would probably win by that margin or close to that margin. That electorate voted for Trump by 11 points in 2020 plus. So Apex Caliber says hurricane strike, Iran, JD, nightmare week. Yeah, it's a nightmare week for Harris. It is. I mean, the vibes were already shifting over. Trump has the lead in Pennsylvania. The election mafia is coping with the most ridiculous copes I've seen in my life. So Patriot345 reports the CNN debate poll. Yes, Jeffrey Bryson says, I was referring to when Vance did that interview with Collins where she mentioned 1-6 as one of her questions. Also, any chance he swayed California? Well, he definitely did not. It would take 100,000 Vances to sway California to be 5 points closer. I mean, California's California. But Trump is going to make gains there because they know Kamala better than anybody knows Kamala. That's why her favorable rating when polled in California was below Biden's in 2020. Neaton says, with an all-out war in the Middle East, or will an all-out war in the Middle East be our October surprise? I don't know. It's definitely doesn't make the current administration look good. And you talk about momentum and undecideds. Vance made the argument well to those voters. He did. By how much does it move the needle? We could have that question, but he did well. Roxy Loyola for 10. Thank you. My Philippines fantasy for 2. American Nerd 76 says, did you see the news yesterday from the House Intel Committee that says Tim Walz might have ties to this? Well, obviously, he has shady dealings over there. I guarantee you he does. I don't know by how much, but the way he dodged the question but kind of admitted guilt on the debate stage was telling in and of itself. Oh, look at me. I'm a knucklehead. It reminds me of, I'm Joe Biden. I'm fine to be president. I'm fit to serve as president, but I can't be tried for serious crimes that I've committed because of my cognitive decline. That should have been the end of his campaign then and there. I really don't understand what the hell the Democrat, honestly. They could have maybe gotten somebody that would have stood a better chance and would have separated themselves from the administration better than the number 2 in command of the administration, and Donald Trump would be in for an uphill climb. But they don't have that. They have Kamala Harris out there. And Obama didn't want her. Why do you think it took Obama a week to endorse her? Because he knew Okay, we're back, I guess. I don't know what happened. Like I said, we've had some trouble with Chrome and stuff, but we're back. We're back as things stand now. But as I was saying, do you think that it really happened to do with the fact that Shapiro wanted the job and he was passed up because of his religion? That might have been part of it. But the real reason why is because he doesn't want to join a ticket that's going to end his career. They, in their internal polls, Shapiro himself head-to-head with Trump was only up by 1 in Pennsylvania. Shapiro on the ticket with Harris in their internals was down in Pennsylvania. What would make you think he would want to embarrass himself and end his career by running on this ticket that was destined for defeat in a state that he supposedly has a 60% approval rating? And of course he didn't want that. Of course he didn't. Why would he want that? You could say it's delusional, but I really feel the people that say that don't understand the nuances of this electoral politics. So Billy in the Clonosaurus for 20 says he's voting for Harris. He's used to people giving him grief about his beliefs, but it's fun, never personal. We can't all get excited about things when it's... Well, thank you for the super chats. I'll say that much to extend the olive branch there. But the Video Maker 2341 says, did you see the Trafalgar poll on Wisconsin? I did. Isn't Trump up by 1? They've been cautious this cycle, but I agree with the split between the presidential and the Senate race. Baldwin probably, I think it's going to be a little closer at the end. I think it's a 2-point split. If Trump wins Wisconsin by 2, I think Hovde could win. Is he guaranteed to win Wisconsin by 2? I don't know. But I think, he's the favorite in Wisconsin. Trends, Harris is going to struggle with those white working class voters. We've seen plenty of evidence. It's why they put Tim Walz out there and they're trying to say, he has the male appeal. But I don't believe he does. Like I said, he appeals to liberal men. He appeals to what the Democrat insiders believe appeals to men, because the men that are Democratic insiders, that's maybe what appeals to them. That's not what's going to appeal to the average person. It's not. It's going to take a lot. She's got problems with men. Obviously, she's doing well with women. There's no denying that. But, she's not getting Hillary numbers with women. She's not even getting Biden numbers with black women. Hispanic women numbers are not looking too good. White women, she's still probably going to lose them outright. That's not exactly good. It's not exactly good for Harris. Basecat says MSNPC is accusing Vance of mansplaining. Well, I really hope they continue to pump up that rhetoric, because you talk about the male problem they have, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse. And it's not like they're winning women over with that stuff. Richard for 10 says, how are pollsters doing with oversampling Dems? I don't even know if it's oversampling Democrats. I think it just, the white working class voters that they typically reach and they get tend to be these more liberal people. You're reaching the librarian in the middle of Greene County, Pennsylvania. You're not reaching the third shift factory worker. That's the problem that they have. Right Angle with Noah, thank you for becoming a member. Stormtroop Gamer says the deep state and the globalists are pissed. Basilisk says, if Kamala wins Pennsylvania, how nervous should we be? I hope Trump picks up well, I don't think we're going to know the winner if she wins it until probably the day after. Now, that's a state that you probably will have the late ballots break blue again. The question is there enough of them? The answer is probably not compared to 2020, depending on Donald Trump's lead. The one thing I'll say about Pennsylvania is that if Donald Trump, if he does lose the state, he can win with Wisconsin if he gets the Sun Belt, he sweeps it, which it seems like he's poised as it stands today to do. If it doesn't mean it's going to be that way a month from now. We don't have early data out of Arizona, Nevada that's going to tell us a little bit of the story. But keep in mind, Republicans having an advantage, they need a sizable advantage, because you do have a lot of those rhino, registered Republicans in Arizona that don't vote for Donald Trump. And we kind of misread the midterms in part a little bit there by doing that. But let's see. So American Nerd 76 says, with Vance's performance right now, rate his chances in the 28 primaries in general. I'll personally predict he'll crush a primary challenger in the Dem nominee of 28. Well, here's the deal. He's so good on the debate stage that he's going to command them in the primaries. All the DeSantis supporters in the primaries failed to understand that he was a non-factor in the debates. If he wanted to stand out and shine, he would have been able to do so if he was such a good candidate. He was unable to do that. And when you look at somebody like Nikki Haley, as much as I despise Nikki Haley, she upstaged him. Vivek Ramaswamy, who nobody even probably knew before the first debate, he decided to upstage him. They stole the show, and DeSantis' numbers fell even further. And in terms of what we're seeing with Vance, he's not somebody that's like that. Is he the most charismatic guy in the world? Maybe not, but is he improving substantially in that department? Yes, and he's a very skilled type of orator. He's very smart. He can always, steal the show and turn it back on people. You know how conservatives like Tulsi Gabbard's performances against Kamala Harris in the Democrat primary debate in 2019. That's kind of like Vance, but all the time. And he's got the blessing of being the running mate, whether Trump wins or loses. Hopefully Trump wins. He'll be a shoo-in. I mean, other people might run against him. It's going to be like Al Gore in 2000. It's going to be like, George H.W. Bush in 1988. It's not going to be as much of a contest if that happens. He'll be the overwhelming favorite. It's not going to make for good media coverage on this channel, but there's going to be a lot going on as well in the general. But I'm not going to tell you the general election chances because a lot can happen between now and then. We will see. But let's see. John Waffle says, whoever says Walz won the debate has serious coping problems. Vance 100% won the debate. The poll should be up tomorrow. Yeah, the CNN poll is just trash. And even they have Walz losing. Like, that's incredible. So they're at least basically saying, even in their own twisted methodology, it's not a needle mover. But it is a needle mover because if you pulled these two before the debate, Vance was not the one on top. Now he's the one on top. And that brings us to, I think, our next super chat from Patriot345. It says, pre-CNN debate poll, Walz was at 54 and Vance at 46, so a 5-point shift. No, that's more than 5. It's a 5-point shift for Vance. Okay, we should be back. We're having problems. We may even invest in a new computer before the election just because of what's going on here. But either way, we're getting to the next super chat. But the bottom line is that Vance won. Even if CNN and CBS are forced to admit Vance won the debate, he won the debate decisively. It wasn't even close. They have to keep it close. This isn't the Trump-Biden debate where they're going to say Trump ran away with it. I don't know how much it's going to change the state of the race, but if you talk about any voters it did sway, they were swayed into Trump's column. They were not swayed into Kamala Harris's column, which I feel like is the main point here, the main takeaway. Ash K2 says LT's current rating gives optimism because Arizona and North Carolina are tilt R. Michigan and Wisconsin lean D. Texas, Florida, Georgia are lean R. Nevada, Pennsylvania tilt D. Just one more state. And it will look, if you're looking for LTE to give you optimism, he's never going to have Republicans winning because he's paid. He's paid by the Kamala Harris regime. He was shilling for Biden. He's just like Harry Sisson. There's no difference between the two. They run the TikTok accounts. They're paid to do it. And, whatever. They have their job. They like their job. They get paid a hell of a lot of money. And that's fine. That's their business. But I don't think that they're necessarily the ones to look at it and be like, oh, well, I mean, to be fair, if they have it close, you're right. But it's not like they will ever have Donald Trump winning the election because they can't. They just literally can't. Now, I was surprised when LTE came out and said Biden lost the first debate, but he kind of had to save face with his own followers. Endeavor25 says, who won the debate and will it help Trump? I said Vance won the debate. I don't know how much it helps Trump, but it definitely does not help Harris. Steve Dow says, with testosterone levels continuing to decline in American males, is it a matter of time before Dems have a supermajority? I disagree. I think there's men with low T that recognize the problem, probably out there somewhere. As this has happened, the gender divide is getting wider, and that's true. So I don't know. I really don't know. The bottom line is I feel like there is that RFK Jr. messaging that really helps Trump about the health crisis, and we need that. you talk about all the mass shootings and all these people that do these horrible things that Tim Walz claims to be friends with. These people have, it's not the guns, because people carried guns to school in the 1950s. There were no mass shootings back then. It's not just that you could talk about how do you keep the guns out of these people's hands. You can't say it's the gun, because it's clearly not the gun. It's the individual. It's the mental health of the individual. That's what needs to be addressed, and you have to make America healthy again, or you're not going to be able to solve the problem. You're just not going to be able to. So, American Nerd 76, and we agree that the so-called moderators were the worst part of the debate. They weren't outwardly as biased as the ABC ones, but they were subtly more biased, and I'm really impressed that Vance was able to handle them the way he did. I mean, that was incredible. Anti-Piracy League says Walz's side profile alone lost him the debate. I don't know about that, but he didn't look the part. And that's not me saying that he didn't look like he looked like he was just straight. I don't know. He did not look like he was polished. That's the main point. Vance looked polished. Some people like to dog on Vance's looks from time to time, but you couldn't really say that he didn't have the upper hand here. He looked polished. He looked strong, and that's what the people want. We want strong leadership. Trump was strong. Harris, not so strong. Trump is right. They were afraid of Trump. He's absolutely right. Now, are they going to be afraid of Harris? Well, you kind of see what's going on when you have weak leadership overseas. You could say, well, Trump, foreign policy, but it's like trying to say Trump had a bad economy. People don't really buy it, whether they like him or they don't. Whenever you poll Donald Trump's presidency, did you approve of the job he did? It's always in the positives. Even if Harris's favorables have climbed, they said you approve of the job she's done as VP, it's in the negatives. So that's what the undecideds, I feel like, are going to vote on. I don't think you're going to make a lot of undecideds say, oh, I love Donald Trump now all of a sudden. Maybe some people will become accustomed to his personality, but there's a lot of people who won't like his personality, but they do like the policy, and they know Kamala Harris has no policy. That leads me to believe that Donald Trump's going to he's going to have the upper hand with those undecideds. A lot of them are college-educated white males, and Biden did better with them in 2020 than Hillary, but Kamala Harris is not going to get that margin, and that's decisive in a place like Georgia, North Carolina, even Pennsylvania, Michigan, Oakland County, Michigan. You talk about even parts of WOW in Wisconsin, maybe not Ozaukee, but Waukesha. He can get in the 60s. That's kind of the math that's going to determine the outcome of this election more so than anything else that we have. It's live by the swingometer, die by the swingometer. The Videomaker 2341 says, would you vote for anyone this year? Yeah, I'll vote Republican. I'm voting Republican down ballot. Mike Ferguson says Vance should have came out wearing a horse head. Well, look, they didn't have to get into the horse or the couch or any of these fake stories. American Nerd 76 is how today's debate went tonight. Virgin Crybaby Boomer versus Base Chad Millennial. Yeah. And that's the thing. New leadership. Kamala Harris talks about a new generation of leadership, and then she picks like this old guy. Obviously, he's only 60, but he looks older than Trump to be the VP. And then you look at J.D. Vance standing on the other side of him. So Young Rex says, do you think Trump will win Texas by 10 or more? I do not. I think he'll win it by more than he won it by in 2020. I don't know if he's going to get 2016 levels. It would not surprise me because Harris is an awful fit for Michigan. She does not have the same Hispanic appeal that even Biden had in 2020. The border is a big issue. You talk about a lot of people in the suburbs. You do have a lot of Trump-Biden voters. Trump's probably going to win over more of those than the Clinton-Trump voters. They're not going back. A lot of them are Hispanics. They're a part of the realignment. They're not going back. That's the problem that she's going to have to deal with. So it's all math. Chance Andreinzik says, Jeff Flake endorsing Harris is hilarious. 18% approval rating when he left. Yeah, exactly. Just like Dick Cheney. Here's the deal. This is not new. It would maybe matter if he didn't endorse Biden in 2020. He endorsed Biden. And of course, Tim Walz starts off the debate leading off with, oh, John Kelly said this about Trump. It's like, you really think that's going to move the needle when we've heard it the last two debates and it hasn't bounced off? Trump fired these people and they're seething and they know that there's an angle to grift so they can write a book and they can make money about it. And that's the way it goes. That's true. Everybody knows it. That's why he's the only one to corroborate a story about the suckers and losers that 20 other people, including people who hate Trump too, like John Bolton, say is absolutely false. But they'll only take the one guy's word for it over the 20 other people. And the one guy continued to work for Trump for 2 years, but apparently it's real. I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. And John Kelly's praising Hillary Clinton now. So was he really ever on Trump's side, or is he a snake in the grass establishmentarian? That's the problem with the staffing of the first Trump term. When you have somebody like a J.D. Vance that can go out there and dictate personnel a hell of a lot better than Mike Pence, and you have Reince Priebus being replaced with somebody more competent, somebody more solid at the RNC, you're going to have a much better pool of staffing. And you also don't have, Jared Kushner in the sphere, because he's Trump's son-in-law, but he's very liberal. And his agenda is not exactly the Trump supporters' agenda that was shared by some of these other advisors like, Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller, you name it. So let's see. We have more super chats. Anti-Piracy League says okay, hold on. Debate recap. Walz looked like a scared dog. Moderator's pink blazer looked awful. I made $50 betting on Walz wearing a black suit. Vance won, but no minds were changed. As Trump would say, boring. Yeah, I see those betting preps. Those are not preps, the betting props. They talk about it on the What Are the Odds show with Barnes and Barris over at the People's Pundit. And yeah, I mean, it was true. They said, I think the thing that they said, though, is that Vance would wear a blue tie, and he ended up wearing a red tie. That was kind of different. The Video Maker 2341 says prediction on New Hampshire governors and New Hampshire governor is going to stay red. North Carolina AG. I don't know. I would like for Bishop to win. It just depends on the Robinson down ballot effect. That's all it hinges on. Mr. Clean says Harris voters are the type of people who'd make it through a nuclear war under Biden in the Middle East and say we need to keep Trump out because yeah, exactly. 100%. Steve Dowse's undecideds tend to break with the candidate they see as less risky. Trump already had a successful presidency. I have zero doubt they'll break. Well, they didn't. Even in 2016, the undecideds broke for Trump, which should tell you something. Because Trump was a hell of a lot more risky back then than he is right now. People memory hole, people forget, people gaslight. What can I say? Ash K2 says, Brian Tyler Cohen said Kamala would be the first Democrat president not to ever rescue the economy from a Republican recession. They had a recession in office. They had a recession from, in the middle of 2022. So he's just, that's the guy. He calls his show No Lie, but all he comes up with is half-truths, lies. The people believe we're in a recession. That's the ironic part about it. The public perception does not match up with the pundit class who's supposed to gaslight. And if Trump wins, these people will have wasted the past 9 years of their life for what? They lost the final battle, and their pain was drawn out too. So Peter G for 20 says, I doubt they're ex-Trump voters. If Trump convinces 49% of the voters at any point in any state he's not. Exactly. 49 is the target. I'd say something like 49.3, 49.4 just to be safe, because, third parties are in the mix. Like if he gets 48 point something in Michigan, given the higher third party vote from the whole Palestine crowd that's going to come in, he's probably good at 48.5 in Michigan, which is huge. We'll see. We will see. But we have, in terms of the ex-Trump voters, there are ex-Trump voters, but there's also ex-Biden voters. There's non-voters. That's the main takeaway. It's about turnout. It's not about vote switching. It's really not, because Trump's winning that battle, and he's also likely winning the lower propensity battle. How is he losing? We just need high turnout. That's it. If he gets the turnout necessary, he's going to wipe the floor with her in all the swing states. It will be called by like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. if he does that. That's a big if, but it can happen, and it needs to happen. So hopefully it does. So let's see. I think we're going to wrap things up in a minute or so. So if you have a final super chat, I'd recommend sending it in. Also, check out the merch store if you want the Red Eagle Politics shirt I'm wearing. You can get it at shop.redeaglepolitics.com. You can get the iconic Trump mug with it for 20% off. We have the Trump iconic design on the front. We also, on the back of it, we have the iconic quote. They're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving. That's the iconic quote. And it's my favorite mug. I'm not just saying that. It's high quality. The shirts are high quality. I'm not just saying it because it's mine. It's objectively true. So check out the merch store. Antanas Andriotis says, will Americans physically cry on a... Oh, of course. Something tells me the average person's going to be less like disappointed because obviously they've had Trump for so long, and people talk about Trump fatigue. There's also Trump hatred fatigue that doesn't get talked about enough, but it's like they act like the guy's the worst thing ever for 9 years, and it does bounce off. It really does bounce off. He is the favorite. It's not a done deal, but he is the favorite. Whether he's the betting favorite or the national popular vote polling favorite, it's still neck and neck. But given past data points and trends, he is the favorite. The Video Maker 2341 says, do you still have any relatives living in Iran? I probably do. I just don't know them. I'm sure somewhere along the line there's relatives all over the world, but I've never met them and probably never will. So, of course. But anyways, guys, we're going to wrap things up. Like the stream, subscribe, hit the bell, follow me on social media, check out the merch store, donate to the polling GoFundMe so we can release more polls. $5 from everyone in chat would get the thing done by the end of the night. So feel free to check that out. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I will see you guys in a video tomorrow. Red Eagle out.